The scent of sugary beignet hung heavy in the humid New Orleans air, a stark contrast to the bitter taste of secrets I'd swallowed for decades. My wife, Jenny, lay pale and still in our hotel room, carrying a secret of her own, and I, unknowingly, was about to stumble upon the truth about myself, a truth hidden deep within the shadowed corners of a dive bar called Rawhide. Jenny and I had planned this trip for months, a romantic getaway to New Orleans. We were excited to explore the French Quarter, to taste the local cuisine, and to simply spend time together. Our hotel, the Hilton New Orleans/T, Charles Avenue, was booked just a few blocks from the heart of the city, but things didn't go as planned. Jenny wasn't feeling well. From the moment we arrived, she seemed off, pale, tired, and with a constant, slight wince. I was worried. "Tom, honey," she said, her voice soft and weak. I feel terrible. I think I need to stay here." She insisted I go out, enjoy the city, and not let her illness ruin my trip. I hesitated. I didn't want to leave her alone, especially when she was feeling so unwell. Then the truth came out. Jenny was pregnant. Morning sickness had hit her hard. A mix of joy and concern washed over me. We had wanted a baby, but the timing felt unexpected. Jenny was adamant. "Go," she said with a weak smile. "I'll be fine. Just bring me back some beignet." So, with a heavy heart and a promise to return soon, I left the hotel. I stepped out into the humid New Orleans air, leaving Jenny behind, resting in our hotel room. Stepping out of the cool, air-conditioned hotel, I was met with a wall of heat. The New Orleans humidity clung to me, heavy and thick. I felt a pang of guilt leaving Jenny behind, but I knew she wanted me to explore. I walked down St. Charles Avenue, then turned onto a side street, drawn by the sounds of music and laughter. Soon, I found myself on Bourbon Street. The energy was electric. Music poured out of open doorways. Crowds jostled along the sidewalks, and the air buzzed with excitement. I decided to embrace the atmosphere. I bought a hurricane, a brightly colored drink in a tall glass. It was sweet, almost too sweet, but the rum packed a punch. I took a sip, then another, and began to stroll down the street. Unlike my home in Pennsylvania, here, I could take my drink with me. I watched as people laughed, danced, and mingled. The music, the lights, the sheer exuberance of it all began to wash over me. I found myself relaxing, letting go of the worry for Jenny, just for a little while. The drinks flowed freely, and I found myself increasingly caught up in the moment. I wandered, exploring the side streets, the back alleys, letting the rhythm of the city guide me. I was losing myself in the intoxicating swirl of New Orleans, a world away from the quiet concern I felt back in the hotel room. The noise of Bourbon Street began to fade as I wandered down a narrow side street. A dim neon sign flickered, Rawhide Lounge. It looked like any other dive bar, dark and inviting. I didn't know then that it was a gay bar. I stepped inside. The air was thick with smoke and a strange, almost electric energy. It was dark, the only light coming from a few dim bulbs and the glow of the bar. I ordered a rum and Coke. It was cheap, strong. I took a seat at the bar. The back of the bar was shrouded in shadow. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust. Then I saw them. Two men, close, their bodies moving together. I froze. A jolt of shock, then a strange, unfamiliar heat coursed through me. I'd never seen anything like it. Questions, long buried, surfaced. Questions I'd pushed down since I was a teenager. The attraction I'd felt, the feelings I'd suppressed, the life I'd chosen. It all seemed to unravel in that dimly lit corner. I felt a confusion, a strange excitement, and a sense of recognition. It was like a part of me, a part I denied for years, was finally waking up. I stayed, watching, trying to understand what I was feeling. I was married. I was a husband, a soon-to-be father. But in that moment, in that dark bar, I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. I felt alive. I went back to the Rawhide Lounge, not just once, but several times during that trip. Each time, I was drawn back to that dimly lit corner, to the raw, unfiltered expression of desire. It was like watching a forbidden play, and I was a captive audience. I observed, I studied, I tried to understand the feelings churning inside me, but I remained a spectator. The weight of my marriage, the growing responsibility of impending fatherhood, it held me firmly in place, a prisoner of my own making. 20 years, 2 decades of living a life that felt increasingly like performance. I played the role of the devoted husband, the loving father, the reliable provider. I built a life on a foundation of unspoken truths, of desires buried so deep I almost forgot they existed. Every birthday, every anniversary, every family gathering felt like another layer of pretense, another brick in the wall I'd built around my true self. Jenny and I eventually divorced. It wasn't a bitter separation, but a slow, quiet drifting apart. Our oldest child is now almost 20, a young adult navigating their own path. The years have passed, each one leaving a subtle mark, a whisper of regret. I stayed, I endured, I tried to convince myself that this was enough, that this was a life I was meant to live. Now, in my early 40s, I find myself living alone in a small, impersonal apartment. The reflection in the bathroom mirror reveals a man I barely recognize. A beer belly, the telltale signs of a life lived without joy, and lines etched around my eyes, testament to years of suppressed emotions. I wonder if it's too late, if I'm too old, too ordinary, to find the happiness I've denied myself for so long. I've heard the stories, the stereotypes, the idea that gay men are particularly selective, and I can't help but feel inadequate. I look at myself, this middle-aged, slightly worn man, and wonder if I'll ever be seen, truly seen by anyone. My ex-wife and children have no idea. The man they know, the man they see at family dinners and holiday gatherings, is a carefully constructed illusion, a role I perfected over years of practice. The real me, the man who felt that spark, that flicker of recognition in the back of a New Orleans dive bar, remains hidden, trapped in a cage of my own making, a prisoner longing for release. Sometimes, late at night, when the city outside my window is hushed and still, the memories of that New Orleans trip resurface. The humid air, the cacophony of Bourbon Street, and the stark, almost brutal honesty of the Rawhide Lounge. It all feels like a scene from forgotten film, a distant, almost surreal experience. I find myself replaying those moments, dissecting them, trying to understand the ripple effect they've had on my life. What if I had dared to explore those feelings, to acknowledge the truth that had been whispered in my ear since adolescence? Would my life have been a tapestry of different colors, a story of genuine connection and fulfillment? Or would it have been a path fraught with its own set of challenges, a different kind of loneliness? The what-ifs are a relentless tide, pulling me under with their weight. I see couples, their hands intertwined, their eyes filled with shared understanding, and a wave of envy washes over me. It's not just a desire for physical intimacy. It's a yearning for a deep, soul-level connection, a sense of belonging that I've never truly experienced. The fear of the future looms large, a dark cloud hanging over my every thought. Will I spend my remaining years in this self-imposed isolation, a prisoner of my own carefully constructed facade? The idea of revealing my true self to my family, of shattering their perception of who I am, fills me with a paralyzing dread. I imagine their reactions to confusion, the potential for rejection, and my heart clenches with a primal fear. Yet, I know I can't continue living this half-life, this charade of normalcy. The weight of my secret is becoming unbearable, a constant, gnawing ache in my soul. I feel like a character in a play, trapped in a role I never auditioned for, reciting lines that feel foreign and hollow. The thought of starting over, of dismantling the life I built, is daunting. It's like standing at the edge of a precipice, unsure whether I'll soar or plummet. I feel like a ship adrift in a vast, uncharted ocean, lost and without a guiding star. I look in the mirror, and I see a stranger staring back at me, a man who has spent too many years living a lie, a man who has allowed fear to dictate his choices. And a question echoes in my mind, a desperate plea for hope. Is it too late to rewrite my story? Is it too late to finally step into the light and embrace the man I was always meant to be? The uncertainty lingered, a constant hum beneath the surface of my life. But then, something unexpected happened. I met Roger. He's 7 years older than me, with a warmth in his eyes and a gentle smile that instantly put me at ease. We started talking, and something just clicked. It felt right. One evening, over coffee, I found myself telling him about the trip to New Orleans, about Jenny, about the Rawhide Lounge, and the feelings that had been buried for so long. I told him about the men I'd watched, the questions that had haunted me for years. He listened intently, his gaze unwavering, and then he said something that made my heart skip a beat. I was there too, Tom, at the Rawhide during that same week. My mind raced. Could it be? You were one of them? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded, a soft smile playing on his lips. Yes, I was. It was surreal. The man I had watched, the man who had unknowingly sparked a long dormant flame within me, was sitting right in front of me. It felt like fate, like the universe had finally decided to give me a second chance. Roger became my first real relationship with a man. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when the old insecurities crept in, when I questioned whether I was good enough for him. But Roger, with his patient understanding and unwavering affection, always reassured me. He loved me for who I am, flaws and all. We're happy together, truly happy. There are still times when I wonder, what if I had spoken to him all those years ago? Would we have been together all this time? Or was he too busy enjoying his youth then? Maybe it was just the timing, the way our lives aligned, that brought us together. But those what-ifs don't hold the same power anymore. Because in the end, it doesn't matter how we got here. What matters is that we are here, together. We found each other, two souls who were meant to meet, even if it took us a lifetime to realize it. And in Roger's arms, I finally feel like I've come home. I finally feel like I'm living my true life.